Welcome on the second Sunday of Easter on behalf of Father Mike and the rest of the team who are producing these resources. A very happy Easter to you all. The reading from the Acts of the Apostles gives us a picture of Christian community that's ideally faithful to the gospel. It's a community of shared faith and shared possessions. The second reading stresses the Christian vocation to love. Through faith in Jesus Christ, Christians have become children of God. They'll show their love for God by keeping his commandments, the principal one of which is that we love one another. In the Gospel, Jesus appears to the apostles, showing them his wounds and granting them the gift of peace. Then he entrusts his mission to them, giving them the gifts of the Spirit and the power to forgive sin. Thomas's profession of faith is the supreme statement of Christ's identity in the Gospel of John. Indeed, it was at this point that the first version of John's Gospel ended. This revelation of the identity of Jesus as the Son of God was the climatic point of the Gospel of John. It was much later that we know, as the last chapter was added, highlighting the second call of Peter. It's a trait of human nature that when we are feeling good, we tend to feel okay about people coming near us. But when we're in pain, it's a different matter. We tend to cut ourselves off from others, to keep people at a distance. No one wants to have a sore spot touched. We want it left alone. This is understandable, but it's a mistake, because how can healing happen if we will not allow our wounds to be seen or touched? A wee story now that maybe would illustrate that. A nun was travelling from the United States to Latin America on the plane. She found herself sitting next to a woman from Peru. The woman told her how she was returning home with her mother, who had undergone 3 surgical procedures in the US. "Is your mother feeling better now?" the nun asked. "Oh yes," replied the woman. "She's well now, and she'll feel even better when she sees her family at the airport to welcome her back." When the woman asked why she was going south, she replied that she was a nun and she was going to do missionary work. On hearing that she was a nun, the woman's face changed dramatically. She leaned over, took her by the arm and whispered in an agonised voice, "Oh sister, my mother has cancer and there's no hope for her." Why did that woman feel that she had to keep up a pretense that all was well? Why did she feel she had to hide not only the mortal physical wounds of her mother, but her own emotional wounds as well? Surely they were not things to be ashamed of. Her own wounds were caused by love. Only when she discovered that the woman beside her was a nun, that's someone for whom she thought or she might expect sympathy and comfort, did she come out with the truth, allowing herself to be touched and to touch. Let's reflect on the man who's the centre of today's gospel, Thomas. After the death of Jesus, he fled from the company of the other disciples and took off on his own. He missed out on the first appearance of the risen Jesus, but he was there for the next appearance. It's interesting to note how Jesus dealt with him. The first thing Jesus did was to show Thomas his wounds. Jesus felt no need to hide his wounds, for they were proof of his love. They were the mortal wounds the Good Shepherd suffered in defending his flock from the wolf. He invited Thomas to touch those wounds and appreciate the depth of Christ's love for him. But in reality, Thomas was the wounded one. He was wounded by grief, by loneliness, doubt and fear. In his pain, he wanted to be alone. Even though his wounds were invisible, they were nonetheless very real. Jesus was able to see Thomas's wounds. It was he who touched his wounds and so made him whole and well again. It was by touching and being touched that Thomas was healed of his unbelief, as well as his other wounds. Likewise, by showing our wounds, by touching and being touched, we too are healed. The human heart is healed only by the presence of another human being who understands human pain, who recognises that they are wounded themselves. Our world is full of people like Thomas, people who are wounded in many different ways. People who live with doubt and uncertainty, people who are tempted to give up hope and surrender to despair. They will not come to believe or be healed unless they can touch the wounds of Jesus and be enfolded in his peace. This can only happen if he is seen to be alive in his followers. We might not be comfortable saying it or hearing it, but the truth is we are the risen Christ for others. They can access healing for their wounds and peace for their minds and hearts simply by us owning our own woundedness and allowing them to reach out and to help us heal. That's what being a missionary disciple is all about.